So this is my Uncle Jack's 1930 Model A that he restored back in 1977 to 1981, and I have had it now in my possession for 3 weeks. He drove it 3/10 of a mile in 1981, and then he put it back in the garage and parked it, never to drive it again. So it's essentially a 0-mile restoration from back in late 1970s to early 81, and I'm getting ready to probably start it tomorrow. I've gone through everything and checked it all out, checked the ignition, had a key cut for it, and changed the oil, and gonna put some distilled water and some water wetter additive in it for the radiator. Put a new battery in it. The starter works, engine turns over. I had put Marvin Mustry oil down the cylinders with the plugs out, and then hand turned it to make sure everything was free, which it was. So that's all good. So here's inside the engine bay. Like I said, I had to take the Electrolock system out and reinstall it in the distributor because it was removed. I pulled the plugs and put Marvin Mustry oil down the cylinders, and then turned it over by hand. It was a little hard to get it to go with initially, but once I had about a revolution on it, everything was good. I drained the original oil from back in the 81 when he first ran it, and put Dello 40 weight heavy duty oil in it. It's what the guys here at the Model A Club here in San Diego recommended, which has been really helpful. Arlen and John Frazee, they've been really good to help me get this thing going back up. So I hooked the battery up, and I actually engaged the starter, and with the plugs out again, ran it through a few revolutions, and everything seemed good. So it's all together now. I just have to put coolant in the radiator and put some gas in the tank, and then see if it fires. I know it's got power down to the Electrolock, down to the distributor. I checked that before putting it together. My uncle drained the radiator, and he drained the fuel out of the fuel tank, so he somewhat preserved it, again from back in 81. Not quite sure when the last time it ran was, but anyway, you can see by the odometer there, he was pretty upset that he had 3/10 of a mile on it, so he rolled it back to 0, and that's where it's been since 81. Anyway, it's a really nice example of what is basically a full restoration. Here's my some of my checklists I've been going through, and then starting instructions, and last thing I got to do is just put a little grease in the Zert fittings on the water pump housing, water pump shaft, and oil up the distributor a little bit. The little pull out here, you pull that out, and that's where the oil goes in there. Oil the shaft a little bit, and then be ready to go. put fuel in the fuel tank, and I had a little bit of wetness, as you can see, around the bottom of the bowl drain. So I'll tighten that up just a little bit more here, because it is seeping a little bit through there. And then I had some fuel coming out of the fuel line down here that led to the carburetor, so I tightened it, and it looks like it's pretty much dry. It might be weeping a bit more. I don't think so. I think it's good. So I just got to fix this, and then I'll move on to the radiator, and we'll go from there. Okay, so it's Mother's Day 2018 on a Sunday. It's about 2:30, and I decided to go ahead and try to start the Model A. I've got everything done that needed to be done. The only thing I have not done is I have not put any fluid in the radiator. I'm going to see if the engine fires. If it fires, I'm going to shut it off, and then I'm going to go ahead and put fluid in the radiator and run it for a few minutes. So, going through the checklist, first thing we got to do is turn the fuel on. I already checked for fuel leaks. I've resolved those problems. Spark advance all the way up to the left. Throttle about 3 clicks down to the right. We're gonna open the choke 1/2 turn. We're going to turn the ignition on, which is on now. And then we're going to pull the choke for about 2 to 3 seconds and see if she goes. Fire. I might pull the plug and check for fuel to see if it's wet. Okay, I'm going to try her again. What I did is there was a lot of fuel on the engine pan underneath the carburetor, so I think I had it flooded. So now I'm going to try to do is I'm going to back off on the fall a little bit. I'm going to advance the spark just a little bit. It may have been too far recharged, and we'll see what happens. Okay. I think it's gonna run. So I'm going to put some coolant in the radiator and see if I can't get it to run a little bit. Wow. Since 1981 or 82 was the last time you started this thing, we don't really know. But it appears it's going to go. I'm going to run. I'm going to go ahead and put fluid in the radiator. And then I'm going to check for leaks in the cooling system. Make sure that there are no leaks. And go ahead and run it for a few minutes. This is distilled water, which is the preferred coolant of the day. Antifreeze, modern antifreeze is a no-no. The lead seals in the water pump shaft, in the brass and the copper, and the head seals don't like the modern day coolants so much. So here we go. I got coolant in it. Took 2.5 gallons, almost 3 gallons of distilled water, and I think we're ready to go now. give it a shot. I may have to choke it again. She's running barely. I'm just gonna let her keep going for a few minutes here. Perseverance pays off. So it's taking throttle real slow, but I'm just going to let it warm up and take its time. She's purring. So here's what she sounds like back here. Not doing too bad. We're getting some heat in her now, so the radiator isn't doing too good. I think it's got a leak. Not quite sure where, but it's coming out pretty bad. Looks like the voltmeter is working good. See if she takes a little power. And it doesn't like throttle. Doesn't like the throttle. I think the radiator's got a hole in it. It's not doing too well. It's a little leak up there. But she's running. Yeah, losing a lot of water. See if we're taking a little bit more throttle here. Boy, the old spark and the throttle are really sensitive, especially the spark. That it backfires. Get her to take some throttle. getting some warmth in her.